East Lynn, West Virginia is a small community situated on the northern edge of coal country. Originally established as a farming village called Twin Creek, the coal industry made the town boom. After briefly being called Atkins Mills, the name East Lynn was adopted in 1891. The town flourished from the early 1900s to the 1950s, broken only by a short downturn during the Great Depression. Eventually, after a disastrous fire and a declining coal industry, the town began to die. The glory days of East Lynn remain locked in memories and photographs from days gone by. Prior to the Civil War, the East Lynn area was simply a collection of farms. Only one building, a log church, was located where East Lynn is today. It was burned during the war. While many men from the East Lynn area served in the Confederate Army, the war did not truly hit home until February of 1864. Colonel Milton Jamison Ferguson brought 150 men of the 16th Virginia Cavalry home to Wayne County to harass Union troops in the Big Sandy Valley. After 2 months, the Federal Army in Louisa, Kentucky crossed the Big Sandy determined to destroy Ferguson and his men. Led by a Union sympathizer, the Kentuckians surrounded Ferguson's camp at dawn on February 15, 1864. As Ferguson's men cooked breakfast, the Federals opened fire, killing roughly 5 rebels. They unintentionally killed 5 Union prisoners as well. Ferguson and 38 of his men were captured. 11 of them would die in prison. Ferguson survived. One young man who died in the so-called Battle of Murder Hollow was Robert Gills of Tazewell County, Virginia. He remains in Murder Hollow to this day. After the Civil War, former rebel soldiers began coming home to the East Lynn area and starting businesses. Men such as Charles Walker Tabor would run stores in town from the 1870s forward. Harrison Watts, a remarkable timberman, operated a successful general store in town for years. In 1868, a post office was established in the Atkins Mill south of East Lynn, at the mouth of Laurel Creek on 12 Pole. Soon, the post office was moved to the center of town, but retained its name. The village itself soon became known as Atkins Mills, replacing the older name Twin Creek. One man who helped develop East Lynn as much as anyone was Walter Raleigh Osborne. Born near East Lynn in the 1830s, he had served in the Confederate Army and returned home to open a store. His would be one of the most important businesses in East Lynn for decades. On numerous occasions, he made wagon trips to Huntington, a 3-day journey in the 1870s, to gather supplies for anyone in the area who needed them. Nonetheless, his greatest contribution to East Lynn was his sons. The boom years of East Lynn would begin in 1902 as the East Lynn Coal Company and the Big Sandy, East Lynn, and Guyan Railroad were established. The railroad originally intended to connect the Guyan River with the Big Sandy River. The town of East Lynn would be located at its center. Nonetheless, the railroad was built from East Lynn to Wayne and no farther. For the first time, large amounts of coal flowed from East Lynn. People, including black miners from Alabama, flooded to East Lynn. Many of these black miners left soon after arrival due to hostility from local residents. Beginning in the 1890s, Charles Walker Osborne, son of Walter Raleigh Osborne, would begin operating a store in East Lynn. By the 1910s, he and his wife, Mary Etta, were operating a hotel next to the store as well. There, miners and lumbermen could get hot meals and a good night's rest. Charles Walker and Mary Osborne had several children, but their daughter, Hester, would become an East Lynn fixture until her death in the 1990s. Hester, who married Shirley Crabtree, would later serve as postmaster at East Lynn. She would save countless photos and artifacts, thus preserving much of the town's history for generations to come. The 1910s would prove to be one of the most prosperous times in East Lynn's history. 11 coal companies were in operation at one time, and the town was incorporated. The town was home to a movie theater, doctor's offices, and even a brass band and baseball team, the East Lynn Reds. When the United States entered the Great War in 1917, the young men of East Lynn, like everywhere else in the country, marched off to war. The East Lynn baseball team sent players John Beckett and Wayne Sellards to the Army. Beckett survived. Sellards did not. He was wounded and died in September of 1918. Along with the war came a flu epidemic that killed millions worldwide. 20 people in East Lynn met that fate. 3 more players on the East Lynn Reds died of the flu in the fall of 1918. They were Belden Hutchinson, Milt Farah, and Jesse Beckett. Several other young soldiers from East Lynn perished in the war as well, including W.S. Snapper, Linza Agyans, Andrew J. Wellman, and Alan R. Tabor. In 1920, Samuel Perry came to East Lynn and started the Katona Coal Company. A large trestle was constructed over 12 Pole Creek from the mine opening. At the other end of the trestle, coal car tracks entered a tunnel and re-emerged on the other side of the hill. The coal was hauled across the trestle, through the tunnel, and was then carried by beltline to the tipple on Fry Bottom. Aside from greatly increasing East Lynn's coal output, the trestle and tunnel provided curiosity for the young people of East Lynn. Despite the job opportunities and prosperity provided by the coal industry, the ever-present prospect of death hung over East Lynn. Bronson Canaday was just 18 years old when he went to work at the Katona mine one morning in 1926. He would not leave the mine opening alive. A song known as the Ballad of Bronson Canaday was written to remember his fate and mourn other miners. Ready?
Yeah. Come all of you young miners with a heart so brave and true, and I tell you of an awful fate of a lad that we once knew. His name was Bronson Kennedy, a lad of 18 years, and he left this world while working with his father dear. It was on one bright Monday morning, a mild October day, and with his dear old father to East Lynn made their way, not knowing that the end of his own life was at hand. But he labored hard to pay off the mortgage for the land. And on that bright Monday morning, he left daylight behind, and with his dear old father, he went into the mine. They were removing pillows, a dangerous dock we know, when a falling piece of falling slate dealt him the fatal blow. All there was to do while a boulder held is cry, my son, I see you, but you I cannot help. He waited there patiently in anger and in fear, until the rescue party removed the boulder there. It mashed his head in the coal, and it broke his neck in two. It blotted out his life and sent him to his tomb. He left his dear old parents, his brothers and sisters too. But there will always linger the memory of Bronson dear. So let us all take warning before it is too late, and get right with our Savior before he closed the gate. It may not be a coal mine in which we pay the cost, but in that great tribulation we too must pay the cost.
Dr. Oscar Taylor Hines arrived in East Lynn in the early 1900s to work for the East Lynn Coal Company. A veteran of the Spanish-American War, Hines had gained experience on the battlefield. Perhaps the most colorful character in East Lynn's history, Hines played the guitar, drank heavily, and frequently operated outdoors. His first home was located on Front Street, present Route 37, but he soon built a new home overlooking the town. Inside, he lined the walls with wood from every species of tree in West Virginia. A young East Lynn man named William Jennings Porter was an apprentice of Dr. Hines.